Are you looking for a new math curriculum? Well, CTC Math specializes in providing online video tutorials that take a multi-sensory approach to learning. Favorably reviewed in Kathy Duffy's 102 Top Picks and the Old Schoolhouse Crew Review. The lessons are short and concise to help your children break down concepts and appreciate math in a whole new way. The lessons are taught the traditional way, not to the test. Each one of the video tutorials is taught by an internationally acclaimed teacher, Pat Murray, who is renowned for teaching math concepts in a simple, easy-to-understand way and in only a few minutes at a time. Using a multi-sensory approach, having the combination of effective graphics and animation synchronized with the voice of a friendly teacher together with practical assessment, even students who struggled with math are getting fantastic results. And the ones that were doing okay before now are doing brilliantly. Visit CTC Math today and start your free trial. That's ctcmath.com.
This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Your host, Felice Gerwitz, is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at mediaangels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Hey friends, and welcome. Today we are going to talk about summer fun on a shoestring budget. This is episode 528, and you can find today's show notes at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com. Well, the summer's in full swing, and you have weeks left before school starts. So, how do you keep the kids from fighting with each other or saying those dreaded words, "I'm bored"? In fact, I would tell my children that the words, "I'm bored," mean, "Mom, give me some work." And they would look at me and I would say, "Yes, that's how I hear it. I hear it that since you're bored, you need something to do." So they very rarely said those words. But as a mom of 5 and grandmother of 9, I'm going to share with you some tried and true activities that are going to keep the kids learning, mostly without them knowing. I want to thank our sponsor, CTC Math. You can find information at ctcmath.com. Okay, so it's summer, or it could be some other time of the year when you have the kids for an extended period of time, and you find that the children are having a hard time using their time wisely. Maybe you're similar-minded and feel that the children shouldn't be on a tablet, computer, or television most of the day. So what do you do when they've exhausted their normal activities and find that they'd rather bother each other than find something to do? Well, this is a time I pull out the activities I save for the proverbial rainy day, even if the sun is shining brightly. And these activities tend to keep the children occupied and having fun. Summer's a time to learn a new skill, and my kids learned how to ride bikes in the summer, or they started a new hobby or sport. Maybe you've wanted to teach your children about the explorers or classical music. I wanted to do a classical music study around Christmas. I don't know why that is, and maybe because we used to go listen to concerts at Christmas time. But I always found that Christmas was so busy I couldn't get to it. So I switched it around and I did it in the summer. And it was so much fun. Even if the kids never loved classical music the way I do, they enjoyed learning about the composers and they learned how to identify different musical instruments in an orchestra. In the winter months, we did attend a concert and they enjoyed it because they understood a little bit about compositions and the instruments. I group my activities into different categories, ones that don't take many supplies, just brain power, and others that do take supplies that I try to have on hand. Either way, the results are the same. Mom's happy, the kids are happier, and no one's getting in trouble. So I break up the activities into different categories such as indoor and outdoor activities, and then I further break them down into the following groups: few or no supplies, some supplies, and many supplies. I also have included a free summer printable for you, and you can just click the link in the show notes, and there you will find some pages that you can print out. And I have some things such as ideas for art, for business or entrepreneurs, for health and healthy eating. Let's see here, for math, for play or drama, for geography, for reading, and for science. And so these were broken up into more academic categories, but you're welcome to print that out and use it. And I have some things in here like a fun activity is answering the phone. What's the correct and incorrect way to answer the phone? This was more important when we all had home telephones and the children would answer them, but it's still wise to teach a child how to answer a phone call when they get it. So again, here's some ideas that you can have and print out. Well, what are some indoor activities for summer fun? So under the category of few or no supplies, I have things like a scavenger hunt. Even if the children are little, you can find little graphics online. You can go to Google Images and download some of those pictures, especially if you're using them just for home use. Some of those you can use. I have accounts at Deposit Photos where we actually pay for our graphics. You can use things like Canva as well. They have a free account and one that is, I don't believe, costs a lot of money. And there aren't as many, or there's limited graphics. But you could just, if you can draw some things that the kids can find around the house and then send them on a little scavenger hunt. One time I gave them air thermometers, and I told them to use that to measure different places around the house. So they could do that under an air conditioning unit or put the thermometer by the window. And then they had to write down what the temperature was. My children got the brainiac idea of sticking it in the freezer, and they froze the thermometer and it broke because it wasn't for the freezer. But then I got a better thermometer that they would be able to do that with. And they really had a good time drawing pictures and writing down all of the different, heat indexes, if you will, within the home. Word cross or activity pages are fun. You can make them out of some past spelling words, or you can even have the children make them for each other. My kids had a grand old time making, those word search puzzles for each other. And they would make them really difficult. When I made them, I didn't make them quite so hard. So you could take a page that has grids on it. Again, that's something you can probably find and print out. And then you can write those down by hand. And those are just fun. Puzzle pages are really fun. You can keep activity books on hand and just tear out one of those pages. I have some coloring books that are a little bit more complex, and I keep those on hand for when the grandkids come over, and I have special colored pencils that they can use, and they know where to go in the closet to find that. And I have it in a little basket so they can just pull the whole thing out and put it all away when they're done. So those are some just quick, fun things that you can do. Something with some supplies would be coloring pages that you have to have on hand, drawing with pencils or colored pencils or markers. Paper airplanes is another fun one. Making a fort with sheets. I would just give the kids different size sheets and some towels and have them, put them over chairs, and they would just, play all day under a fort. They really enjoyed that. Reading, of course, and then writing a story. You could use story starters, and I believe if you search for those online, story starters for children, you'll find all kinds of suggestions. We actually had some story starters in our activity packs with our creation science books. So those were fun things for the children to do. And they can just, do a short story or even just a couple of paragraphs. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing. Or you can even do, which this would be under the no supplies, you could do a story starter. Just one day I was walking in the woods, and you point to the next child. So you're sitting in a circle, and we would do things like that when we were camping, and the kids would finish the story, and then they would just add a few sentences and then turn to the next person who had to fill it in. And that was really fun, and it was often very funny. So sometimes it did get out of hand, but that's when they were older and were teenagers. So, and then there is the mini supplies, and that would be under arts and crafts. The grandkids came over the other day, and we pulled out the acrylics. Now, I don't normally let them use acrylics, and one of the reasons is that they can be expensive. These were smaller tubes that were not very expensive, and I had put them in a box for them. And they are permanent. So you want to be wearing old clothes and not have them do it, sitting on cushions at your kitchen table maybe. So we got everything out. I had some paper cups for them to rinse out their brushes. And that's one of the things I teach the children, that they're to empty their water often. And if they need help, they call me. And they sat at the table. I think there were 7 of them here. And they were so good and working on their art. And I really enjoy art. In the day, I used to love to paint, and I don't really have enough time. So they know that Grandma can help them, and they always want me to fix their work. So I'll say to them, you start it, and I'll come, or I'll show you how to do it on another piece of paper. And I want them to practice, for example, if they were doing a leaf, or if they were doing, some leaves on a tree. So I would just show them different techniques, and then they would do it on their paper, and then they would ask me to help them at the end, and then I could just draw in a few little defining lines, and they would say, why do you make it look so good? But I would say, well, I couldn't have made it look good unless you had done all of this, beforehand, and try to really encourage them. So they really had such a good time doing that. And painting is always fun. Kite making is another thing that doesn't take a lot of skill, and you can find some great, simple kites that the kids can make. I mean, we've done everything from taking parchment paper to taking paper bags that we took apart, and some dowel rods. One time we even used popsicle sticks. That didn't work quite as well, even putting them side by side, but I had hundreds of them, so we decided to use them for the kite making. The kids have made kites out of plastic bags that we've gotten at the store, and I know some of you do not have bags in your states, but we still do here in Florida. So you could take the handles of the bags and tie them together with some kite string, and if it's a windy day, those bags will fill up with air, and the kids can just run and fly their little quickie kites. Water balloons are always fun. Some kind of balloon craft that the kids can do. You can get kits for those, or just have them inflate a balloon and twist and do some things with that. And of course, homemade rockets. The kids would shoot things off with, baking soda and vinegar in a bottle. You have to be careful with that and make sure that it's pointing away from each other. But they've done some really fun activities with that. Now, for outdoor activities with few or no supplies, you could do nature walks and identify what you see. The kids can either use, a camera to take some pictures, a cell phone, or they can, stop and draw pictures. We used to do that. We used to do nature rubbings where the kids would take paper and a crayon and color over the bark, or color over a leaf or a stick, and that was really fun. Bird watching is always fun. We had nature books on hand where the kids could take those outside. Even setting up bird feeders is a great idea. Lots of wind activities you can do with wind socks. Just like I shared with you, the quickie kite, with plastic bags that you have on hand, or collecting things such as collecting rocks or shells or just things that are ready available that they can find. And then there are the races, tag, hopscotch. The kids used to play a lot of different games, contests. My kids are very competitive, so everything from who can catch the most fish in the pond to who gets the most baskets in basketball. So those are things that the kids can do without a lot of props or supplies. Now for ideas with some supplies, they can do some kind of water sport. If they're little and you can just give them a little tub filled with water, make sure they're wearing bathing suits and sponges and different types of things that can float or sink, and they will just spend hours with that, get soaked in the process, but they'll have a really good time with that. Or if you have sprinklers or a slip and slide, or you're fortunate and have a swimming pool, those are things, of course, the kids can do. Flying kites with real kites that they actually put together would be fun. Bug catchers are always fun. And then my kids did the catch and release. So they would study the creature and then let it back in the wild. Make a fort with sheets. They can do that outdoors as well, over a tree branch, if you have that available, or even finding a cheap pop-up tent. Those are really inexpensive at the end of the summer season. That's when we found really good deals to buy something not quite so expensive. And then making giant bubbles. There are all kinds of recipes for that. The kids can use pipe cleaners or even metal coat hangers that you bend and make these gigantic bubbles, and that's really fun. And then with many supplies, one of the things the children did was cooking in the sun. So they set an aluminum foil little tent area up and they tried to cook. They also had their contest. They used beach balls. How long could they keep it up? They did that with balloons in the house. That got a little bit irritating, so I didn't even list that, but I'm going to tell you that's something that they do. We just had a party not that long ago, and the grandkids were over, and a couple of balloons somehow missed going out into the trash, and they were having so much fun just bopping them up in the air and taking turns to see how long they stayed up. And that's all very well and good until they start floating toward the table I had set. So I sent them outdoors with that. And, as they said, Grandma, balloons pop very quickly outdoors. And I said, yes, I know. Just make sure you pick up the pieces and put them in the trash. Another thing is to create a map that starts with your yard, your neighborhood, and so forth. One of the fun activities we did with the children was there were certain stores we went to often, such as the grocery store or the park that we went to, and I gave them some paper and I said, okay, from memory, draw and map out the grocery store. Grocery stores are larger now, so maybe just do the dairy section, or you can do the bakery section or the vegetable section. And it was amazing how much the children remembered. And they did that with our yard and so forth without, like putting in the trees or the pool or whatever that was outdoors. And another one is a nature hike that takes longer with the backpack and supplies, but have the kids pack that themselves. One other podcast I know I've done in the past, I recommended having little backpacks or drawstring bags with supplies you need for different things. And it's so good to have those at the ready, and when you need them, you can just take them and go without having to even think. And the last is a picnic. That is always fun, and the kids can look forward to that. So they can actually pack the picnic. You can have one in your backyard. At one point, we had a little tree house, and the kids would try to get me to have lunch up there every day if I would. So many times that was what I would say. If we get our work done, then we can go have a picnic up in the tree house. Or I would just let them, when they got older, have a picnic up there. Unfortunately, in our hot Florida sun, it eventually fell apart. But those are things that the kids can do and keep active. And if you have a rotating list or have these ideas to jumpstart your own, I think that the kids will be in good hands for the summer. Again, don't forget to print out the list that I put on the website. You can find the show notes again at the vintagehomeschoolmoms.com summer fun on a shoestring budget. You can go to the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network and find the podcast there, as well as many other podcasts. And I put more summer fun resources here. There's one on water pressure, writing a book, a family business, and other summer projects for families. So some of those are blog posts and summer podcasts that you can enjoy with your children. Well, take care, everybody. God bless, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Visit Felice at MediaAngels.com and thevintagehomeschoolmoms.com. Vintage Homeschool Moms is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.